commercial.
Yeah.
Good evening and welcome to the Franklin Board of Education meeting for Wednesday, September 10th, 2025. The meeting has been properly posted. Can we have a roll call, please, Dr. Beer?
Yes, Mrs. Yank?
Here.
Mrs. Witkowski?
Here.
Mr. Sprague?
Here.
Mrs. Sapersky?
Here.
Mrs. Larson is excused. Dr. Khan?
Here.
And I am present.
Thank you. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll start with community comment, although nobody signed up. Does anybody wish to comment? Going once, going twice?
Jenny, comment? No.
All right. I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Mrs. Witkowski, seconded by Dr. Khan, all the way over on his island over there. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion was made by Mrs. Yank, seconded by Mrs. Sapersky. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. School board calendar, regular Board of Education meeting Wednesday, September 24th at the ECC at 6. Board Policy Committee Tuesday, September 30th at the ECC at 10. Homecoming Parade Wednesday, October 1st at 5:30. And a Board of Education meeting on the 8th of October here at 6 p.m. District Administrator update, Dr. Bennon, please.
All right, good evening. Nice to see everybody tonight. So exciting updates are that the school year is off to a start and we've had bus routes running on time relatively after the first few days typically. And all the routes are filled. So those are things we couldn't say a few years ago. So we appreciate that. We've had a lot of our open houses in the schools. Our no-cell bell-to-bell has been going well, 612. It's actually been really neat to get some of the pictures from the middle school of students interacting and playing games at lunch and just a lot of positive things. And at the middle school in particular, the Student Services Department has really taken over having something on the screen every day about mindfulness or different question of the day and things like that to just continue to build the social emotional learning. That's the real reason behind, not having the phones out and interacting with people in front of them. High school excitement has been that this is the first year we've done the pre-ACT and the ACT testing in the fall as like a practice round. So they did that today. So a big shout out to Mike Volo and his whole team and all of his support staff, as that takes a heavy lifting to get everything ready to go and set. So this will give us data points for staff to use right away to continue to work with students to better get them set for those bigger assessments coming later. What was also neat is we could have just said 12th grade, you don't need to come today. But instead, Joey Jonas really led with his team a variety of choose your own way kind of adventure with the seniors. So looking at technical colleges, learning about writing college essays, creating a LinkedIn account, just a variety of different sessions they could do that are going to help them set up for either college, technical, or just getting ready for whatever comes after graduation. So really exciting things going on at the secondary buildings, the elementaries. Just the excitement of meeting their teachers and getting settled in has been really, really great. The Education Foundation is also our great partner, obviously supporting staff initiatives in the classroom. So they have two of their bigger events coming up. So this Saturday, it's the consignment sale at Forest Park. And then on the 27th, they're doing a glow run, which will also be at Forest Park. So it's open to district-wide, family, staff, community. It's the first year they're doing a glow run. So it sounds like something exciting that they'll take on. Other events we also have with the district, we have the Sabre Marching Band invite. So we host this annually. That's on the 20th at the Sullivan Stadium, starting at 3, going till about 9 at night, I would say. We have a couple band parents on the board, but it's a variety of different schools performing. So if you are able to come out. On Friday the 26th, a couple weeks away yet, but we have our first professional development day of the year. So Dr. Mo's gotten out the Gear Up sessions. We're continuing for the 4th year some of those options that staff can pick for 2 of the sessions in the morning to learn and grow professionally, take care of their own well-being, and a lot of sessions based off of feedback we get from staff. And then the following week, we come back and it's homecoming week, so activities and dress-up days across the district, but obviously a plethora of activities taking place at the high school. all week if you need anything to do. And then we have the parade for all board members that are able to march on the 1st of October. So we'll line up at 5:15, march at like 5:30, and then we just need to see who has a vehicle that's available that can drive along with us for all the candy. Franklin Forward updates, that's been a challenging take. So Franklin Forward referendum work, we should at this point have fences up at the high school property. We should be moving ground around to the north side of the school, and we should be getting ready to demo the pool in a couple weeks. All of that's kind of on hold. We've had a variety of conditional use and NRSE items at the city level that have been tabled, brought back and looked at, and some changes that the city's arbitrarily made to those, despite the district meeting and even going beyond city expectations through that work. So we're continuing to work with them to kind of see what those next steps are, but that unfortunately does delay our work at this point. I would say at minimum, our site plan approval, which is the final piece we need to have to really move forward, is November, maybe with Common Council. There's a plan commission in between there potentially. So we have a variety of work we're doing and communicating with the city right now to understand what the next best steps are, and where some of these recommendations have come from or what substantive evidence they have to make the recommendations. So we'll continue to work to partner. We've been proactively meeting with the city the first Thursday of every month since February to understand what we need to do for the project to keep everything moving forward. And at this point, we're kind of pivoting to where do we go next with some of the different things that are taking place. So we'll keep you updated, but that's basically where Franklin Forward is now. We were scheduled for an update. We had projected out for October at the board table. Kind of held off on that one for now until we have a significant update. Then we'll bring that forward, obviously, to the board right away.
Thank you.
Question?
Please,
Just want
Linda.
to know how the rec building's going.
Oh, excellent. So I've given some updates in Friday board updates, quite a few to the board about the Cirque building, but it is on track, ahead of track a little bit. We should have the rec department moving into the Cirque building beginning of November. The clinic is set to be open by January of 2026, but we expect that that'll probably be over earlier also, maybe even December. But we're trying to, under promise, over produce on that. But that's kind of what our internal conversations have been. So yes, everything taking off there. Exciting, I think, is seeing the playground going up. So we should be having some, I don't know if kiddos will be able to play on it before everything opens up to be able to get on site, but it's exciting to see some of that coming into place. But yeah, good progress on that. Thanks for asking.
All right, thank you. Board liaison reports. Does anybody have anything to report?
I shared with you guys the email from the SWSA meeting yesterday. Big focus just on state budget and how we can continue to advocate with legislature around that, which I think you could see in the email and the slides if you went through that. Always interesting to hear different perspectives from different school districts that speak on that meeting. But yeah, that's,
Still Zoom?
pardon me?
Was it still Zoom or did you?
Yep, it was a Zoom. They're talking about doing some hybrid meetings where you could go in person. They tried one in June. It was my birthday, I didn't go. So I'll let you know. I think they're thinking about maybe in November, so we'll see.
Anybody else? I did attend the PTO meeting, the first one of the year at Pleasant View, as that is my liaison school. It's nice to have about a dozen people there and meet some of the parents of those families at Pleasant View. School and community engagement. Linda, please.
I did meet with principal at Robinwood, kind of a get-to-know-you meeting. The building was heavily under construction. Obviously, that was a focus for a lot of projects. So that was still, it was about a week before school was going. So they had a lot to get together yet. And we just chat about, stable staffing, and I don't know if she was real clear on the goals. And I did learn you could volunteer to play with the kids on the playground over lunch. Anybody can come in and play games with the kids.
Absolutely. We'll always take volunteers on the playground.
Anybody else?
Went to the.
Please, Mary.
The teacher welcome at the Sabre Center, which is so fun. It's like, you just see so many people. How do you possibly say hi to everybody? But it was so fun. really liked that day. And then went to a couple football games.
Yeah, the energy is nice at the welcome.
Yes, I mean, that speech is just so inspiring and so just, I don't know, I'm sure people walk out of there just energized.
All right, anyone else? All right, we'll move on to reports, presentations, and other board business. So Ed for Employment update, Dr. Moe, or a motion to recommend approval if there are no questions.
I move that we approve the 25-26 Education for Employment Plan as presented at our last meeting.
Second.
All right, motion was made by Dr. Beer, seconded by Mrs. Sapersky. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Summer school report, Ms. Bombian, please, and Ms. Jewell.
So, crazy to think that, right, we're starting the school year again. But it was my third year overall leading the summer school programming and another successful year at Forest Park. Families recognized me being year 3, I felt they were more like, oh, I have a great one, and like let go, and it was an easy transition. Students remembered the building and were able to help the younger kiddos too. Couple highlights, we had increase in elementary and middle school enrollment and a minimal decrease in the credit recovery. So less kids needed credit recovery than last year, so hopefully we can continue to see that trend go down for high school. We added Susan Cassidy, who was recognized by the board for Maddie the therapy dog. So Maddie joined us twice a week, and we had a rotation, and classrooms loved it. And then she went out for the middle school break. It's like a quick 15 minutes in between their 2 sessions, but that was a big morale booster. And the 6th graders this year were like, oh, I remember you from Country Dale. So Susan and Maddie were welcomed on a weekly basis. So that was really a positive add to the programming this year. So I was glad to be able to make that happen.
And I'm joining more on the back end of things, so I work mostly on like the setup of our summer learning K-12. So working with Janine from the K-8 side, working with the high school associate principals from the 9-12 side, just to put it all together. So like she said, it was a great year. We had good success with students attending our credit recovery program, making up some credits that they may have been missing. As well as then at the high school level, we also have some enrichment things happening there. It was also refreshing. Our high school associate principals took on the role of summer school admin at the high school level this year, and really have lots of ideas moving forward about how to continue to increase some enrichment opportunities for the high schoolers, and then just finding small tweaks that we can make to our credit recovery as well to make that the best opportunity for students in the summer. So that was exciting work that we got to do. And then I'm working with lots of different people here at the ECC just to try to figure out how do we create that cohesive summer learning program moving forward. So we're already starting to talk about more of a partnership and communication with rec so that families really get an idea going forward about what opportunities are there through rec for their children over the summer, what opportunities are we providing, and trying to bring some cohesion there. So had a great year and looking forward to some things to look forward to next year as well.
Thank you. Any questions? Angie, please.
Are kids from outside of the district eligible to participate in our summer school? I just don't know the answer.
Non-resident?
Non-resident?
And students who are residents but don't attend are.
Linda, please.
So you did have quite a bit of growth at the middle school. So what do you think made that work? I mean, you went from 193 to 249. What do you?
Yeah, I would say potentially families looking to get their kids in the middle school ahead of time to get used to the building.
Oh, okay.
Anytime I talk with a 5th grade family, if I'm at schools or in parent meetings, obviously I recommend the program because I've done it, but also it does help with that angst of like the big building and am I going to get lost and all of that. So there's not one thing thing, but if I had to guess, it potentially is that.
Thank you.
You know,
Akshay, please.
for the high school offerings, especially for integrated math, I am 1, I am 2, and I am 3. Is it all recovery, or they were also students who had taken the courses for first time? It's because it says credit recovery of first time credit courses.
Yeah, no, our math is only credit recovery. So the courses that we offer for first-time credit would be Intro to PE and Health. That's it.
And students who take the junior, senior health, is it advantageous to them to take in summer so that they don't have to do the gym in the academic year then? Is that, how does it function?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, it just means they potentially have different opportunities during the year, but
Okay.
like that, same thing with like the Intro to PE.
Okay.
Like students who take that, usually it's because then, like as freshmen, Intro to PE is one of the only courses that they take that is a half credit. And so then by taking that over the summer, they now have an opportunity to take a full credit course that's year long. So it's just the students
Okay.
figuring out what's best for their schedule and
Okay.
what they're interested in taking.
Okay.
Kids who already were looking at another half credit course might not have the same consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
All right, discipline matrix, bullying report, Act 12 information. Dr. Mo, please.
Thank you. So this is several items kind of combined into one. You can see in the report. I just want to provide a couple of highlights, and then I'm happy to take questions. The first thing is the discipline matrix. I know a couple board members have asked about. This is actually our second full year of implementation. So as I explained in there, the one thing to start was to get the matrix done. But the second piece that we added was to get Power School aligned. So when we call a behavior entry or behavior log, so when a behavior serious enough gets referred to the office, that's logged in Power School. So the second big step that we had to do is make what was in Power School match what was in the matrix. So now we actually have what we would call cleaner data to move forward with and plan with. So when I wrote this, I realized maybe people who don't live and breathe this every day, like, what is a behavior log? What's in Power School? So when something makes it to the office, or a student's going to be suspended, or we've contacted a parent, or any number of reasons, things that are managed by the office get logged into Power School, so it becomes a record. Parents can see it in their own child's parent portal, like it gets documented perhaps differently than a math teacher becoming upset that a kid forgot their pencil. So that's probably not something that's going to get logged into Power School, but more serious, a cheating or having a physical altercation or something on that matrix that's office managed gets logged in. So when we're talking about that being set up, now those things match. So we know that across K-12, all the schools are, I don't want to say it's every single situation where every single kid is the same, but we're a lot closer to an apples to apples comparison. The other piece of that is we would often have parents frustrated sometimes if their child had a conflict and they would say, well, I want to know what happened to the other kid. I want to know what the consequences were. And by law, we can't share that. But what we can do is share that matrix with the parent and say, we can't tell you specifically, but we can tell you for name calling, this is the list of consequences that we follow district-wide. So that alone, I think, has been, that's not the whole reason we did the matrix, but likely something anecdotally I would report that gave parents a little bit more trust in our system. So I just want to provide clarity on that. Kind of the second chunk that we included in there is the procedures for pre-expulsion meetings. So these are not expulsions that would come to the board, but these are our serious behavior infractions where we want to ensure that we're bringing a team of people around supporting a kid. So what it does is trigger a meeting. It includes me. I run them. They happen here at the district office. Usually a member of student services, parent, student, administrator. As much as you might think of that as a not great thing to do, it's actually been one of the things I think as a system we're most proud of, because students that go through that process, the plan is tight on the school end and the expectations are clear for the student. And we have had, you'll see on there, roughly over 3 years, we've done about 40 of those meetings. And less than 2 students, so there's some anomalies there, have what we called reoffended or not responded positively to their plans, which means, yes, you made an unfortunate choice, but also, yes, we're not going to rally around you and make sure that we can get you graduated and successful and supported in the way that you need. So if you click on that link, that is in there. And then the third big chunk is bullying is something that you hear quite a bit about. In fact, I think Mary sent an email today. It's something that I know she shared that the board used to hear more frequently from parents than they do now. So I shared in there when we put our bullying policy into effect, we created a form that anytime that word is used or anytime a bullying accusation is made by a parent, by a student, by a teacher, anybody, we document that. You can see on that report on page 2, far fewer events actually constituted bullying than were documented, but the part I really wanted you to hear in that does not mean that there was no intervention or no consequence or no follow-up. Just because the behavior wasn't found to be bullying doesn't really release our obligation to make sure that kids are well taken care of, and in nearly every case, it probably means a meeting with student services, a meeting with parents. It could even mean exclusion from school, right? Depending, a situation doesn't have to be bullying. So I just wanted to make sure that chart was clear, that just because you see zeros in that second column isn't suggesting that it wasn't documented or there wasn't follow through. In fact, I would say in probably 100% of those cases, I never usually say that. So 99.99 without looking each one up, there was some sort of follow through that was documented. So I just want to make sure I explain that, and then I'll take questions.
Angie, please.
2 questions.
Yes.
Can you remind me whether students who go through pre-expulsion proceedings are counted in the coherence plan aggregate data under the, I believe it's in, is it under wellness? No.
They are. So in nearly every case, there would have been a suspension along with that pre-expulsion. It's usually a serious enough behavior incident, and we track the number of students that have received 2 or more suspensions. So they all would be counted as having been suspended. Yeah.
And then my second question is more of a philosophical one, and I know I've heard you speak on this before, but I'd like to hear it again for the benefit of everyone, is just the idea that I think sometimes people think that having low numbers of actual expulsions means that we're not, that somehow that we're failing. Do you know what I mean? That we're not taking things seriously. And I think that what you've demonstrated through the plans that you've put in place and shared with us today is that no, it's just that there are so many steps along the way to try and intervene on those students' behalf. I'm sure you can say it more eloquently.
It
'cause this
is, I
your
mean, one
area.
thing is the state is really crystal clear and very tight on what you are even allowed to bring a student forward for expulsion for. So I'm not trying to blame the state or saying if it wasn't for them, we'd expel. That's not, I mean, but there are very, very strict rules and very strict reasons on one even can come forward for expulsion. So before I explain philosophically, there's that we could not bring forward endless amounts of kids if they did not meet one of those 5 criteria by the state. So just so we're clear, you can look on the state website. They do overturn expulsions. In recent years, they've been really, they adhere very tightly to those 5 categories, and there really has not been a lot of wiggle room, and they've been pretty open about saying these are the reasons. I would say for us, when I start pre-expulsion meetings, what I always start with is this is a plan to hold the school accountable just as much as it's going to hold the student accountable. So that's resonated well with parents in terms of the steps. Like, that doesn't mean that we're going to give up on a kid. It also means if the kid reoffends and does one of those expellable offenses, that we will follow through with that, right? I think you have to state that both ways to the kids. It doesn't, being put on a contract or having a plan doesn't mean that we would not change course if one of those 5 categories should occur, if that makes sense. I think for us, we were always doing behavior meetings. For that, I don't want to say that idea where you would sit around with a team of people and plan around a kid was not happening before this procedure. That would not be true, because it was. I think the difference is there's a different feeling with coming up here to the district office and having the assistant superintendent run the meeting. I think it felt different to families than just having another meeting at the school. So if I would say, what is the difference? That probably is the feels like quotient I often refer to, like it's scheduled to come back. People are here, your principal's here. We usually have 5, 6, 7 people sitting around a table, and it feels different to families. And I think maybe that helped students to see the seriousness, even though we're not going to expulsion. I usually say we are in territory that you don't not want to be in. Like we are trending the wrong direction in terms of your choices. So that's what I'd say, if that helps.
I appreciate your frankness with us, and I'm sure that that carries through to the students, right? You don't sugarcoat things, and so, good job.
Linda, please.
I looked through the procedures document. I don't see a lot about the pre-expulsion contract as far as what's in it and what it looks like. I mean, it doesn't even really say.
It's different for every student, so it depends what the offense is and what the student needs. Some things that are typically in there would be, one, we usually do an administrative referral to Aurora Family Assistance Program. So we can't force you to talk about a certain thing with a therapist or a counselor, but we can say one of the pieces of your pre-expulsion is that you call this number and you hook up with a therapist and take your 4 free sessions. So that is something that's typically in there. Sometimes it's use only of a single bathroom, so no more access to group bathrooms. That tends to be something we would put in if the child's had a vaping offense, for instance, that it's more controlled, their access to unsupervised areas. We often put in a weekly meeting with student services, so you don't have a choice. We want you checking in with us, with student services staff weekly. Trying to think what else is typical.
There's a lot of things they have to do, not to do these things again. It's more you do these things. and
Correct.
Not just all about don't do this.
No, in fact, the first line is usually, you're not allowed to break our rules again, the don't do this. The whole rest of the contract is proactive things that we are gonna do and you are gonna do to make sure that we're back on track. Yeah, that's a
Really
good
related to
question.
the offense, like I think you're
Yeah.
getting at that, but very tied to like, what was the offense? So what's the problem we're trying to solve, right? Like, what's the issue? And, you know, Dr. Mo alluded to, a lot of times it has to do with the vape, so getting different sessions or understanding, you know, like what can happen with that, helping inform parents. I think that's another piece, is that you meet the family, and you figure out if there's services or supports that maybe the family needs also. So it's, I think the difference to it is that it goes on in a building, it comes to a higher level, like Dr. Mo says, when it's at a district level. So that's why we implemented it 3 years ago. And it just gets you to more resources, more minds thinking around what else can we do to help this child? Because we're going to get them to graduation, right? And there's certain things that are expellable, like you said, 5 things that will end up at the board table. But short of that, like, our job's to get them across the finish line, make sure everybody's safe while we do it. And so they're still going to be educated, but it's going to be looking different, right? Sometimes that can lead to class changes, routes in the building could be different. You know, it all really depends on what is that learner struggling with in the moment. And so what can we do to help them find success while they work through that so we can get back on track?
Mary, please.
So, as you know, my focus was kind of on bullying. Very nebulous question, maybe it's not even answerable, but is there anything that we do when kids first come to the district to just implement a culture of acceptance, tolerance, not bullying? I know we do, but I'm just wondering if there's specific things that are implemented in the elementary schools so that we can just build that culture on the front end, and then obviously we're doing great on the other end, so we must be doing something right.
The most tangible, I would say, thing is the second step curriculum is K-8, so every kid gets that in terms of what resource, what curriculum. But I would say the other part is just our culture that we build district-wide, right? That teachers, kids watch what you do. And I used to say when I was a principal in a building that the one thing that I'm gonna call a teacher out on every time is like how they treat kids and how they talk to kids and how we expect kids to treat each other. Is it perfect? No, but you kind of see at the beginning of the year things, I was thinking of Ben Franklin's, he's got cartoon bobcats saying the Ben way with these magnets, you know, like all these positive reminders. If you've seen it, it's like a cartoon bobcat. It's new this year, and there's 3 of them, each reminding kids what to do. And it's on T-shirts, it's on stickers. That's not saying explicitly we don't bully here, but what it is saying in the positive way is here the Ben way, right? Here we do the Ben way. At Ben Franklin, we do these things. Bullying is not one of them, read between the lines. So I think it's almost stated positively in the other way. I also think, I would guess that our principals have hundreds of conversations in a week, redirecting really small behaviors so that they don't become bullying. So I think it's having that eye. Teaching games at recess. You go to K4, there's a lot of time spent on how we take turns, right? That's not by chance. That's because that's a skill you have to learn to be successful all the way through school, right? It's conflict resolution, it's peer mentoring, you read about the middle school, which tends to be the place where there's some hiccups in social development and learning what's acceptable and what's not typically. They now have a group of kids in a principal's cabinet, and they really, through their work, through some unfortunate things that happened last year, right, that we weren't happy about, they dealt with it head on and said, you know what, if you want to be at a place where kids are not using this sort of language, you need to be part of the solution. So on the older end, it's like, we need you, when you see that, here's how you call it out. Here's how you report it to somebody. So that's a little bit later, but taking turns politely and then being someone who interjects and stops an event from occurring are kind of on the same thread, if that makes sense. It's just age appropriate for what kids are talking about. I also think it's little things. So like, you think technology wise, like if kids are using, for instance, we've had some kids say unkind things over Google Chat, for instance. Well, you're all done with Google Chat till we do some work, till you meet with the counselor or you meet with the social worker and figure out this is what happens when you say these things to people. Yes, you have a consequence, but more importantly, here's how we're going to teach you, right? That perspective taking in those things. So it does happen. We are not perfect. We spend a lot of time every day stopping kids where they're at and interjecting and redirecting it.
And I think also adding like, so parts of that too in the elementary schools, right? We have calming corners in all the classrooms and teaching students what to do in a moment where they're maybe not in their best moment, which is when we tend to maybe have outbursts other people, right? Like that's pretty typical even for adults. So trying to teach some of those strategies. And then we've talked about a bit with our coherence plan this year and across all 7 of our schools. Part of our social emotional learning piece also is that we're looking at self-management, self-regulation. So not just building that with students, but then also like, you know, building that with staff, building that with families, like growing together in what does that mean? How do we define that? What are strategies we have? How can all of the adults working with our youngest learners help them, and even our middle and high school know how to cope, how to deal with things? So I think it's creating common language too and starting to get that into, you know, what are we sharing with our families, you know, and how are we talking to each other as staff? All helps to that too.
Our staff is great. I'll just say, like,
Yeah,
I say that all the
absolutely.
time, every chance I get, because I've been in several districts. By far, this is the strongest group of principals for sure I have ever. And I you know, I don't sugarcoat and I don't really mince words, so I wouldn't say that. But they're really good at knowing where to interject and weave, and we're very, very lucky that way. And when you have strong principals, you have strong teachers. So I think they make a really hard thing to turn a corner on look easy.
And our
One-
teachers do a great job
They're
in the classroom, right?
they're
So like when
very
you do
good.
have students that are bubbling to the principal level,
Yep.
it's maybe a few that you're working on with some deeper strategies, but there's so much more that, how teachers are making such a loving environment for the learners to be ready to learn and feel like feel a belonging. That's making a lot of difference to just what's going on in the building too.
All right, Linda, do you have another question?
Yeah, questions on Wisconsin Act 12 data. You
Yes.
didn't say too much about that, but this is required, I'm guessing.
It's a brand new requirement, yes.
And we would have trend data as we accumulate more information each year. You would see.
This is what we have to report each year. It's kind of a strange requirement because most of these things are protected by law. So like, we don't know what a student is charged with unless we're involved in the incident, if that makes sense. So In fact, we are advised, like, well, I guess you can ask. They might tell you, they might not tell you. Report what you know. So most of this is protected information, so we have to do a good faith effort to report the incidents that we know about, which if it happened during school, we know about, but there's plenty of other pieces that we would not know about, nor do we have a right to know about.
And legislators just came up with this year. So like how we've talked about through the policy writing that there's all these DPI reports. This is another DPI report. Came out of some legislators and I think Jess did a nice job describing. They're also minors, so you're not gonna know what the outcomes are.
But I just want to understand this doesn't necessarily happen on school grounds. It's going to happen anywhere in their life.
They are looking for things that happen on school grounds, right? Obviously, I would hope, I'm not trying to be silly, but if a homicide occurred on school grounds, that we would be aware of that. I'm not trying to talk silly or non-serious, so some of them are, but if police respond to an incident, they don't always give us a printout on exactly what the charges were for everybody are involved. They're a minor. So the advice that we've been given by legal is report on good faith effort on what you know, and this is our good faith effort going back incidents and saying this is what we're aware of. In fact, it almost seemed kind of funny, so like obviously the kids at the CRC are in corrections, so they committed some sort of offense, but we don't,
I don't know what that is.
yeah, I'm just gonna leave it at that. Like it's just a strange conundrum. So those are all zeros, but obviously we know that something happened to get them to the CRC. And again, I'm not trying to talk silly, but we're not privy, we're not given a printout at school of exactly what each of them is charged with. And we can't know that. Most of them are adults, so that we're not privy to that information.
So a school resource officer would have access to that information, though, correct?
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Angie, please.
What I'm hearing you say is this is required by law. It's perhaps not the most useful data set for you to track because it doesn't necessarily reflect policies or actions that you've taken.
No, it does not.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Anything further? All right, we'll move on to item D, board policies. As this is our first time using it's our first policy, set of policies coming forward from the policy committee. The policy committee will be the first read, and then this is the second read. As we're converting to Neola, all our policies will be moving over, and they will move over by, what is the date?
Yeah, so the process will be at 5 batches will come through the board. So this is our first this evening that the board would approve preliminarily. And then we'll do the same with the next 4 batches. And then at the February 4th board meeting, the board will do a final approval of the whole book of policies from Neola as reviewed by the board committee and the board effective July 1. So all the policies you read for tonight and as we move forward, they all go into effect July 1. So in some of them, I'll add that you'll see things that are referenced for reports to the board at certain times a year. So all of that will start for the 26-27 school year. And what goes into this before the policies come to you is that the district administrative team reviews them with our Neola representative. That's like today was a 6-hour meeting, right? That's typically what each batch is. And then they get set up through production and then they come to the board policy committee. So for this batch, it was 4 hours of meetings to review all those policies. I think the committee did a nice job having deep conversations and looking at them with depth to bring through what they believe is ready for the board to do the preliminary approval on. And I would say in this one batch, there was policy 167.3 for public comment was the only one that was earmarked that the committee wanted the board to have further discussion about.
All right, great.
I also
And-
believe 123 was also,
Mike, can I just add, just for, essentially for Mary and Maksud and for you
Yeah.
too, just to reiterate that whatever we approve tonight, this is sort of your preliminary approval. And once we have the whole batch completed, there will be then we'll be able to compare and say, here's the things from our old set of policies, this is where they've moved to in the new set of policies, if anything's left. So just, okay. Got it? Okay.
55, I mean, I think the one batch was 55 policies.
All right, so, so we'll go forward like this. First, a big thank you to Linda and Angie and the policy committee, who's done a lot of work, and also Annalee and team for all the pre-work. I mean, it's a lot of work doing this, which of course we knew going in, but we really appreciate all the legwork done. So Linda, we said 167.3. You had also mentioned, I'm sorry, what number was it?
123.0.
What was that about?
It was about,
I don't have one, two.
district administrator
That's
response-
not in our policies.
It's not in there? Oh, let me just take a look.
I don't have that as a number.
123, responsibilities of the district administrator, 1230. 1230. 1230, that's what I see.
Why don't we talk about the one that we do know the correct number on, and while Linda figures out the number on the one.
I'm looking at it right here. I don't know what am I missing. 1230.
Oh, yeah. 1, 2, 3,
Okay,
0.
so that's in this other packet.
So that's in the 100,000s, yeah.
All right, we'll start with 167.3.
So I think that the question,
Yeah, please, Ann, go ahead.
I believe the question on this was, there is
Item
letter
H.
H in this policy that says, participants shall address only topics listed on the current meeting agenda. So that would be a change from our current policy. So someone coming for community comment currently can come and comment about anything they want, and we listen, but we can't always respond unless it is something that's on the agenda. The change in this policy, as suggested by Neola, would be that people who want to come to community comment are only allowed to speak about something that is on the agenda for that night. Something that's, publicly posted as being on the agenda. You can't just come in and say, whatever that's not related.
Please, Angie.
We had a pretty spirited discussion about this, just because it is a change, and we could see the value of both sides. I initially was against the change to our current practice, but I came around to the idea of supporting the way it's written, due to the fact that oftentimes people who have a concern would be better served by being directed to the appropriate person who can actually address their concern, rather than coming before the board. And it may be something that is board actionable, but by far most of the things that we hear that come before the board that aren't on the agenda are things that should be directed to like the principal level or the district administrator level, and it can create a very uncomfortable situation where we can't comment on what was said and sort of correct the record if what they're saying is frankly incorrect. So, but yeah, the other thing to note is that this policy would officially codify what our practice has been of allowing any district employee to speak, even if they
Correct.
live outside the district.
That would be the other,
So that
the
would
only
be-
other
I was
major
gonna ask that.
change
You're reading my mind.
would be that, anybody affiliated with the district would be able to speak.
Linda, please.
I don't think there's a need to make that change. I feel that this is the citizens' only opportunity to really come to the board and say what they want to say, and all we have to do is listen. It's only 3 minutes, and it doesn't, they may come, if he changes, they may come and then be told, no, you can't speak, and that would not also be very awkward. They can come, like they've always have been, speak, and then 3 minutes later, they're gone. I think we owe that to the public, that we should honor that, public voice. We should value that. And that's why I would like us to go back to what we had originally. And I think we should rethink the having employees speak. If they don't live, they shouldn't, if they're not in the district, they shouldn't be speaking. That was also what we did before, but we never, ever enforced it. And I think it's time to do that.
I'm sorry, so you want, to clarify, you would like also like employees, for instance, not to, so to the current policy, basically.
Correct, we should enforce what we currently have written in the last, we always feel like we have to be nice or something, but we shouldn't, we should not do that.
Yeah, I will respond to that. One of the things that I've heard in WASB meetings is that what they're directing people, their attorneys are directing people to say is, if you are a taxpayer of Wisconsin, you do pay taxes to the schools. I also think it's valuable and sometimes to listen to, for instance, employees, what they have to say at a board meeting. That's my opinion. I don't know how others feel about it.
Well, we're not saying we won't listen to employees. They're employees who live in the district, we're going to hear from them. We're not saying no more employees. That's not what we're saying. We're just saying employees who live in the district.
I understand. Angie, please.
I also just want to clarify that all of the, sort of the guiding principle behind what we're bringing before you from the policy committee is the notion that we want to be in a position with a set of policies that best protects the board and the district. And so I just want to gently push back on any arguments that are based on this is the way we've always done things. I think you make good points, but I would hesitate to keep something in place merely because it's the way we've always done.
That is not my rationale for, that is absolutely not my rationale
I didn't
for
say it was
doing
your
that.
complete rationale.
Aksu, do you want to comment? Mary?
So is there a way, would you announce then at the beginning of the meeting and say, participants, community comment should only address topics on the current meeting agenda? Is that going to be like a prelude to community comment?
Yeah, there will be a prelude to community comment based on the policy.
Okay, I mean, when I used to speak, I don't know that I even knew there was an agenda available, nor would I have had the foggiest idea where to find it. So I would come up and talk about whatever, not necessarily germane to the agenda. So I just want to make sure that, people are aware that how to access the agenda.
Yeah, I would say that the community comment, the prelude that we use now has changed a fair amount just in the time I've been on the board. I mean, it changed a lot during COVID, certainly. And it'll be based on policy.
I guess,
Same
what
thing, I
kind of
think, if we were to leave it as it is currently, if we choose to adjust the policy and leave it as it is currently, so basically remove that letter H, we would probably have something in the community comment, there'd be a new prelude, it would change again. Kind of reiterating the idea that you might speak about something that's not on the agenda, we can't respond, and we will be directing you to the appropriate place to take that concern, like your concern will be heard, it will be dealt with, but like we can't, just kind of reiterating that we as the board, if it's not on the agenda, can't respond to it. So there could be change either way to how we would handle community comment, like what would be said before, before the community comment period.
I guess, Mike, what kind of changes have you seen on community comment? Did you talk about a lot of changes happen on that? I think we've always run through the same thing.
I can say from when I was sitting in the audience and community commenting, I don't know that I was ever held to a 3-minute time limit at all. Like, maybe that's because I was the only person in the audience and I don't know what, but like, I don't remember ever having a timer. And I think, when you get into more robust discussions, we have to have our timer. I don't know if you can think of something else, Mike, but I don't think it matters. To this conversation, what we need to decide as a board, and I think everyone, is able to share their thought about what you think, is do we want to have are we going to have community comment that you can speak about anything? Or are we going to have community comment that it has to be only agenda items? That's kind of the question on the table.
Yeah, I think at this point, I was going to say we could perhaps take like an informal vote on whether or not to remove item H, unless people have more questions about it.
Mary, did you have another question?
You referenced WASB. We're obviously working with Neola. I mean, do those two entities have any recommendations? I mean, what is the standard practice kind of across the board?
Well, I don't know that there's a,
It's our policy, it's what we believe, it's what we want. It's what we
Right.
want.
It's up to us to make the decision.
yes,
There's no place to
Yes.
get the answer, you have to figure it out.
yeah.
Yeah, Richard did comment that whereas many of our policies are very strictly controlled, this is one where there's a pretty broad latitude.
Got it.
Yes, you'll find districts that do both things, and it really is a matter of what do we feel?
I will add, I did talk to somebody from Greendale. What they do is they have two public comments, one on agenda items and one open.
That's interesting.
And they have the open one at the end of the meeting.
Oh.
So
That's interesting.
So they have that at every meeting? Like,
I don't believe it was, I don't know the details of that, but that was
smart.
something was shared with me. that-
Thank you. Maksud, please.
I think, as a community, we owe them the opportunity to come and speak at the board. Of course, it will be more beneficial if it is related to an agenda item as such, if they are, for example, tax levy or health insurance or anything like that. Talking about the agenda item because we want to hear about their input, on that. But at the same time, restricting them not to talk about anything else other than the agenda item will, I think, deprive the community from talking about, for example, although, for example, right now we don't have the health insurance, but if someone is very passionate about talking about health insurance, what we are doing right or wrong, if he has a passion and as a community he wants to come and talk about it in his 3 minutes time, I think we must give him the opportunity because although we want to, it will be beneficial, but at least at the same time, we must respect the community in giving them an opportunity to come and talk about to the board anything what they want to talk about relating to the school district. Of course, they can't be talking about national politics, but what is related to the school district as such. Because we are the board and we have to give that opportunity for the community to talk about. Of course, again, it'll be more beneficial if it's related to the agenda item, but if it's not related to the agenda item, but still some room for them to talk about X, Y, and Z related to the school district.
I actually tend to agree with that. I've gone back and forth on this, and I can truly see both sides. I think from a community perspective, I would appreciate having the opportunity to speak about things that are not necessarily on the agenda. I think the trick there, not trick, that's the wrong word, but like the caution I would say is that we as a board, if somebody is saying something that's not on the agenda, we've never heard about it before, is really keeping the open mind and understanding that it will be addressed and that, it'll go back through the proper checkpoints or whatever else. And that, as Angie said, there can be things that are just truly false that are said. And we have to understand that we need to hear truth before we can, render any decisions or anything. Angie?
I'm getting the sense that people are moving towards striking letter H. I wonder if the board would be open to, when we approve the packet, perhaps some options in administrative rules that might be similar to something like what Linda said in Greendale, where perhaps it's, every other meeting that you can speak on anything you want, or at the end of the meeting, or separating those two batches of comments so that there's sort of, I don't know, that separation between business versus open forum. Would the board be open to that?
I think, even for example, because sometimes our board meetings are late, and putting so sometimes and expecting the community to wait till the end of the one. So maybe one thing is that first, kind of just community comment related to the agenda. Is there anybody there? No? Okay. Anything, community comment related to the, open if anybody has any specific concern. Maybe if you want to just, we also want to be if time conscious and management of the time of the board, maybe if you want to just restrict, hey, we are open to 3 open comments, something like that. Just put a number or something like that, just to, if you want to be very effectively in time management. So you can just have 3 open community comments if anyone wants to do it. If not, please go on the next item. I think in that way, it serves the community that we are here to hear them. At the same time, we are being proactive in time as such, from a board perspective.
So you're saying limited time slots?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
It could also be that we say, if you want to speak about something that's not on the agenda, you have to already have reached out to somebody in the district about your concern, like at least started going through the right steps. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you could manage it. And perhaps as somebody who did start by coming to the board meeting and having community comment, like I think it's important to hear from the community, but I do think there are maybe some guardrails that we need to put on it.
Yeah, I like the idea of guardrails in that it keeps the process moving forward. We are different than, school boards are different in function than, for instance, the city council, where people can come and voice their displeasure about anything. And we are, by law, our meetings are open to the public, which they should be, but there are meetings, right? They're not public hearings. It's difficult if that process gets disrupted for when there's no real advantage to doing that for citizens and for us. But we certainly don't shy away from difficult topics on the agenda because we don't want people to have something to say, because we are here for the people. That's who we are. We're citizens as well.
I was just going to say, I'm hearing, for the sake of timeliness, I think we've reached I feel that I was probably the only one who wanted to keep subsection H in.
I would
Is
as
that
well.
fair? So I think our final motion will have to reflect striking subsection H. Did anyone else want to speak on excluding non-district staff?
Can I add one thing that Richard did say in the policy committee meeting?
Yep.
When we talked about this, that hasn't come up, is that he talked about sometimes when you have like an H in here where you're talking on agenda items, boards have elected to have like an open session prior to the board meeting where maybe all board members are here or 1 or 2. So that there are any general interest or topic of anything that anybody wants to bring to the community, from the community, that there's a board member present for 15 minutes before the meeting or 30 minutes before the meeting, that you can do that and then have on the agenda, anything that you speak on during the meeting is on the agenda. So it is something that he brought up, kind of to your question, Mary, at the policy committee meeting.
Yeah, I like that idea. And Angie, it's not, for the record, I would not want to strike H as well.
All right.
But that's me, not the board. Linda,
I want to
please.
share for Annalee that we did actually do that for a while. Where we
tried.
kind of had somebody and nobody showed up.
I know, and then it turned into the key communicators, so we also have key communicators now. So you were doing that upon me coming in, and then we did a retreat to look at that, and then the board decided to start back. You actually remember the name from the old group, Key Communicators, and that group came in for that purpose, which does still exist and has grown. So there is that avenue too.
I think sometimes people just want to be on record,
People want to be heard.
Yeah. People want a microphone. So the non-resident teacher question, anybody else feel strongly about excluding them? Okay, so it looks like that's probably going to stay in.
I mean, the only thing, Mike, you did say, we all pay taxes. So I'm a taxpayer, but not this district. That's why you're saying it's justified to say you don't have to be in this district to come and speak if you're employed.
But they're employed by the district, so they have a vested interest in the district. They might live in Greendale, but if they're working for Franklin, they have a connection to Franklin. They have a direct impact on the decisions, or our decisions have a direct impact on them as staff. It seems like it's valuable to let them come and have a moment.
I think, though, they're an employee, so it's an employee-employee relationship, though, not a taxpayer board relationship. When they come here, it's almost an employee-employer, as opposed to employees that are taxpayers. It's taxpayers versus the, speaking to the board. So that's what we should focus on. It should be taxpayers talking to the board, not employees talking to the board.
It says they have a legitimate interest in the actions of the board. I think it's pretty well articulated, so I would agree with keeping it.
Which letter is this we're talking?
B.
B.
I think that's why it's treated as a separate bulleted item. It's recognized that teachers in the district hold a unique position. Does anyone have any further questions on this?
So when we approve, the preliminary approval tonight of these policies, if we're going to strike H, are we putting in some guardrails, or is that going to be
That
part
will
of
be
administrative?
rules,
Okay.
correct?
Correct, you're saying they can speak on anything at the meeting.
Yeah. So the situation in which that happens is if we want to put limits on it, we could do so within administrative rules. Is that
Like time limits and, right, that's what we're talking about?
correct?
Okay, thank you.
Is it correct?
You can't, if you leave in the policy
can't put
language
those as-
that
yeah,
you
sorry,
can
go
speak on anything, then you can speak on anything. All we'd write administrative rules around is the time and then
Where it is in the agenda.
which is already in here, so the 3 minutes is already in here, so there's really nothing else to add to it. I don't know what else would be in an administrative rule, like you'll read the statement saying you can speak on anything. You'll reiterate that you can speak if you're whatever we decide on B, and that's basically it, like then that's what it looks like, yeah. There's not
So-
really much of an administrative rule to write. There'll probably be some things, but nothing real significant to B or H,
So
other
we
than what
could-
you read.
So we could, but is it possible to keep H in and make administrative rules around, not administrative rules, change the rules so that we do something like Greendale does, where there's a second meeting once, or what I'm saying is, are we excluding ourselves with including, are we better off including H and making a change somehow to that?
So under the J, it says that you can terminate somebody's statement if it's abusive, of course, obscene, of course, or irrelevant. How do you decide what's irrelevant if we're kind of opening it up to, it seems like a pretty nebulous.
That's where, like, when Maksud said you should be speaking about something, in the district and not like national politics.
Right.
If somebody comes in and has, something that's so completely not at all related to the district, you could say this is irrelevant, inappropriate.
So that guardrail, yeah.
I think that's important to have, because sometimes people have emotions and, but it's definitely anything relevant to the school district, they must have an opportunity, I think.
So do we want to specify it more? That says only topics on the current meeting agenda or related to school district matters?
Yeah.
I thought we were talking about taking out H. That's where we were at.
Yeah.
That's where
I
we're
don't
at.
think, yes.
That's where we're
Yes.
at, right? We were removing H. Yeah, I
There's no
heard you say
motion,
that.
but yes.
You supported removing H.
No,
You said you
no,
wanted
that's
to
not
keep
what
it
I
in.
said.
So how about this? We will make our initial pass at this, and what I've learned in my 4 hours of work on the policy committee is that there's an art to writing these policies so that they do what you want them to do and protect them in the way you want them to, your district to be protected. We can go back to Richard and say, listen, there's a feeling amongst the board that we want to allow people to speak to the board in a public meeting on any topic as long as it's related to school district. Is there a way to have it be visibly separated from the actual work of the meeting, or to limit it in any way? And then we could bring that back when we do our final pass.
approval in
But-
February.
You're talking about adding a second comment period?
Or or something.
Because we can add that, like, this is your board rules, like, Richard's gonna come back and tell you, you can add it, that you're writing the rules of how are you going to, what are your expectations as a board, right? You own policy. The behavior to what you do with those comments is up to board members, right? But he's gonna tell you, if you wanna write that, then let's write it in there.
Okay.
But I think my suggestion would be, and I think Richard would tell you this too, but I won't put words in his mouth, it would be, how are you, like, who's going to get into mincing words during public comment to say that has to do with school business or it doesn't? Because you can't respond to it if it's not on the board agenda. So what is that going to look like is what I would just say to the board. Because somebody might think that that relates to board, to district business and some might not. But who's the police on that? It should be the board being the police on it because it's your policy, but you can't speak on it because it's not on the agenda potentially.
Can the president, at the time, if, for example, a committee member comes and start talking about X, Y, and Z, which is not at all related to the school district, and can the president then say that, dear committee member, we understand your passion, but this is your comments, and this one is not related to the school district business at all as such. So, and I think if we set the ground and we know that people are not allowed to talk about anything other than the school district related business, education, health insurance, anything like that, then because we as the board can always stop, because the way we did the 3-minute thing, if 3 minutes is going on, we tell the committee member, hey, your 3 minutes are up, please stop. So as a president of the board, can he stop the committee member if he wants to talk about complete not related to this one, right? I think he can stop it.
He can stop it.
Yeah,
And
I
then the
mean, it
board
says
just
you
has
can.
to
It says.
all agree that the president,
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it says it in the policy in J, if it's obscene, abusive, or irrelevant. I mean, that's happened before.
I would say the larger issue we're sort of wrestling with here is less people speaking on national politics and more just the notion of agenda-related versus non-agenda-related. And
Yes.
if we wanted to try and put something in, if we're removing Section H, if we wanted to attempt to codify a way in which non-agenda-related public comment is handled perhaps differently.
I hadn't thought, Linda, about the idea of having a separate comment period like you talk about in Greendale. My concern with that would kind of echo what Maksud said of, at the end of a 3-hour meeting, do you suddenly want to listen to however, you know what I mean? Like, I just feel like that might prolong our meetings even longer than they sometimes are.
What if we were to say,
Come on, it's 3 minutes. We're talking about 3 minutes. It hasn't been a problem. It hasn't been a problem for us that we,
oh, it had,
I don't
that was
perceive
something we
this as-
actually discussed in the policy committee meeting, was that it has caused problems in terms of the board receiving information
is
that
not
wasn't able to be responded to in the moment, and then the board reacting without having the full story. So that was cited as an issue that has happened.
I don't, well, that's on board's expectation. I mean, board's got to know that we can't, that there's always two sides of the story. I think we've had responsible people that have not overreacted to what they heard in public comment. I mean, that's on the board to know that.
How do you, okay.
Can't we expect board members to know that it's a public comment, it's their side of the story, and there's always two sides to the story? That's just board experience. You just,
It's
think
interesting
you
how
can-
board members have different understandings of what appropriate response is.
Right, Angie, do you want to make a motion, or does anybody want to make a
Linda
motion?
wanted to discuss another policy. What was the number of? the
No,
policy?
well, yeah,
Oh, yeah, because
fair enough.
we're going to
Different group, or
approve
we
these.
just-
Because we're going to approve these.
We're going
as
to
a-
approve these as a whole group, right?
Yes.
So if you
So
have
we-
another.
We had
different-
two flagged for discussion. So what I don't remember the other one, but you have a note that we had it flagged.
1230.
Development of
1230.
district administrative guidelines.
Responsibility of district administrator. I believe we made a request to Neola to have, they have a standard also list or policy. These were something that we came up with, but they have one also that's shared, or one that's, I don't know.
Oh, this was when we were talking about the fact that the job description we've been using for Dr. Bennon is something that was sort of crafted in-house and perhaps could be tightened up a bit. And Richard mentioned that CISA 6 had developed a nice job description, but I don't recall us saying we were going to substitute that into the policy, more that was something we were going to work on acquiring so that we could implement it for our next district administrator goal setting and review process. That's my recollection of the conversation.
I would agree with that.
Well, how about if we just send this back to the policy committee once we get that other standard thing and make some comparison and then see where we're at?
Can we make an initial approval with the knowledge that everything will be reviewed? And I would like to review that as well, but rather than tabling this part, it is good the way it stands. It is legal the way it stands. It is serviceable the way it stands. Could we make an initial approval and then revisit it once we have that data?
And when will we get that data? Would that be something we come around? I mean, you're the chair of the committee, you would, at agenda, I make that note that this is coming back then?
Right, when we are doing our final approval
Up to the
of,
final?
In
What?
February.
in February, when we're doing the preliminary approvals of each batch. And then in February, we'll get the whole
Yes, I understand that, but this
12.
one, I don't feel this one is done, I guess.
So this one is based off of the CISA 6 model. And we used, for my evaluation last year, the board experimented with, you not experimented, but like you adopted for 1 year to see what it looks like, the WASB evaluation tool. So my job description likely could come from WASB. They will not release theirs to Neola to write, so that's what Richard shared with us in the meeting. So CISA 6 models used here, they're gonna resemble each other, they're gonna be somewhat different. That's the difference. So this is the CISA 6 model.
Okay, I have
I think
that.
what Angie talked about in the meeting was that, or maybe this is actually, either way. So this is off the WASB model. Sorry, this is off the CISA 6 model. You used, Linda, when you evaluated me this year, you used the WASB tool. So it would make sense for the tool and the job description to match. And I think what you're asking the board is to make that determination.
Because this is the basis for the job description.
This is the CISA 6 model of the job description. The other job description you could get would be WASDA probably has one with a job evaluation for the district administrator, and then WASB has one. So we didn't have a formal tool. Last year, the board used the WASB tool for my evaluation, and so they have a job description that goes with it. So basically you have, I think those are the only 3 models probably in the state, and you just pick which model you're going to use to evaluate, and then all of them are going to have a job description to go with it, because part of your evaluation is meeting your job description.
So, just 2 points. The policy committee was okay with this policy as written. Okay, so just that one member of the policy committee was not, but the committee as a whole brought this forward to the board as it's written. We will have a second chance to make a final pass at all of the policies we're approving in batches in February. And at any point, if we were to adopt a different evaluation tool that included different language, we could in any meeting
Policy.
modify policy. So my position is we should go forward with this as written. and
Even though right
approve this
now,
batch.
it's not the same model that we use to evaluate.
I think that what we should then address is our process and our procedure for evaluation.
This is more than
I do
what-
not think that, yeah, go ahead.
There's no job description right now, so this gives you something.
Don't you remember that conversation when we did our evaluation last year, that we basically have what we put in our posting, but she doesn't have a job description. So this is more than what we currently have. You can backtrack and say her job description is what we evaluated her on using the WASB tool. But the idea that the work of improving our district administrator evaluation process is complete is, I would say, false.
Right. I think this policy is solid as it is, and as we, to Angie's point, if we decide to change something, we can certainly amend a policy, change a policy at any time. We don't even, this is a preliminary approval tonight. We're not even final approving this until February. I'm comfortable moving ahead.
I guess I don't want to rely on this final approval. We're not going to be making amendments at that final approval. We should be working
Why?
through these differences now. We'll never, I mean, if you've seen the book, it's going to be 1,000 policies that we're going to
Right, that's why
approve
we're
in
trying to
February.
do this all in batches, and of the, I don't even know how many, of the 100 policies that we had here, there are 2 that we're discussing, the 2 policies out of this 100 that we didn't come to total consensus on before this. So we're gonna have, what, 4 more meetings? If we have 2 policies at each of those meetings, in the end, we might have 8 policies to review in February instead of, I don't know, 6,000, whatever this is. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot of work, that's what we're
Okay, you can
doing.
move forward with this. I'm flagging it, so.
I move that we approve the bylaws, the 000 and the district administrator, 1,000 of the new policy manual, with the amendment that in policy 0167.3, we strike section H.
Second.
All right, motion was made by Dr. Beer, seconded by Mrs. Witkowski. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Tuition waiver. Dr. Bennett, please.
There's a tuition waiver in the board packet. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we're just looking to approve.
I move to approve the tuition waiver for the 25-26 school year as presented.
I second.
All right, motion was made by Dr. Beer, seconded by Dr. Khan. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. The treasurer's report is available in Board Docs Library.
Just one.
Please.
So I did notice in the report that we now have the complete listing of every receipt received in the district and every expenditure made in the district is another 2 documents. Is that correct?
Yes.
And if I read those reports correctly, it's across all funds? The expenditure reports, I mean, even the capital fund is all, it's all in there, on that list?
Should be. I'd have to go back and take a look at exactly what it is. I put that in a while ago, but
It's regardless of fund, it's all in there.
again, I'd have to go back and take a look to verify. It's been a while since that was put in there.
Okay. Well,
So-
see you again next month, I guess, or next
Yep.
meeting. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anybody else? All right, future agenda items, CRC presentation, seclusion and restraint report, health and nursing report, board policies, personnel, 3,000s, community and recreation, 4,000s, finances, 6,000s, community relations, 9,000s, district safety plan and goals review, closed session, threat of violence drill review, closed session, district administrator goal setting, closed session, Forest Park Middle School presentation, community and recreation department report, preliminary budget review, Wisconsin School Board Recognition Week, WASB 2025 Business Honor Roll. And I'm looking for a motion.
I have one follow-up on that.
Oh, please.
I did send you an email regarding an additional agenda item regarding our deficit spending, and I did not hear anything back.
I think it's,
I sent it to you, Mike.
Okay. Don't know where that email is, but
Is there any other interest in adding that as an agenda item? I think that's
is
the
is
proper
anybody
way to bring it to
interested?
the table and talk
Is
about
anybody
it.
interested, or did we talked about it last week?
we
last-
talked about
last
it
meeting?
twice.
Multiple times.
Yeah. I'm not interested in discussing it again.
I'm not talking about just last year, but obviously we've had, apparently, the last 4 years, we've been deficit spending, and I just would like a report on the trend. Is this going to continue? What caused it? I think it's important that we look at that and see what's, these are results and what's going forward.
So the policy, the budget comes forward as applied from the policy. So I would suggest to the board that the appropriate place to take that up is in the policy. We talked about that a bit because those finance policies were part of the committee meeting yesterday and are on the agenda in 2
For
weeks.
next week.
And I also add that you've made several assertions just now and stated them as fact. Unfortunately, we weren't able to discuss them because it's not on the agenda, but just note for anyone watching that just because that was stated does not necessarily mean it's factual. I move to adjourn the
I
meeting.
have one more comment, please. This was an email sent from the district administrator stating that we have overspent the last 4 years, so.
This is not on the
Is this-
agenda.
this is not on the
Okay,
agenda,
I don't,
please.
I don't.
I did
there a
not send an email that
There's a
states
second.
that.
Yes, I
I'll
can share
second
that
the
with you, but
motion.
we
No,
can
this
move
is
on.
not on the agenda. I move to adjourn the meeting.
And I've seconded that already.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned at 7:18. Thank you.